Malu pakani not
Going in your not.
It's just old age.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're asking for everyone to please take their seats. Low, still low. Okay. We're just getting the sound sorted out so that it can be more audible at the back. But we're asking everyone to settle down for the moment, please. Afternoon, friends and comrades. As the Weinberg family, or as a friend of the Weinberg family, we first want to say thanks to everyone for coming and being here to celebrate the life of a father, a son, or not so much anymore, a great friend and a comrade. And for the proceedings today, we would like to start with a song by Atule to celebrate Mark.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting Sounds of the South in this trying time. Mark was our comrade as well. We are Sounds of the South. We are a political hip-hop collective. So we're just gonna set up a little bit and then start. We heard that Comrade Mark was not just our comrade, but also he appreciated art so much. So today when we thought of what kind of performance we were going to do, we thought an unplugged and a natural way of giving him artwork. Kaujoinena kumzabalazo, silwe limpilwe ngono tinam. Kaujoinena kumzabalazo, silwe limpilwe ngono tinam. We also have another gift for our comrade Mark, which is going to be a prayer.
Yeah. Kamata, sonini na nini,
nalu sapho lukaMark sele lonakele sele Nkosi lilahlekelwe siza kuwe Qamata sithi uzumngenise ezulwini lakho ebesibonile ebeliqabane uze Mark ufike apho usibulisele kumanye amaqabane uthi ekhaya asikakhululeki uziwaxelele amaqabane sisajongile silindile bekumnandi ukwazi ungumntu ize ibentle indlela kaMagwini ameni thokozani. Omama bayakhala bo okobelindile I am the unseen, I am the forgotten. I am the unseen, I am the forgotten. I am the casualty of war. My body is a stepping stone for racism and fascism. My body is a stepping stone for racism and fascism. At school they asked me, who are you? Who are you? And I say, my life is a lie and I'm still searching for the Rainbow Nation. My life is a lie and I'm still searching for the Rainbow Nation. Rest in power, comrade.
Thank you very much, Atule. Before I hand over to Mark's godmother, Gillian Hart, I wanted to read a short text written by Mark himself as the interlude to your input. And he says, this is 21 years ago, where he says, we Weinbergs are communists and Democrats. Despite our contradictions, being products of the same violence and injustice, our family have always strived alongside the exploited majority to stand for justice, peace, and human dignity. We Weinbergs are internationalists. We stand with the oppressed and the exploited from the streets of Brazil to the ghettos of occupied Palestine. We reject the outright efforts. We reject outright the efforts of Zionists in South Africa. We are guided by our universal humanism. In standing for the dignity and humanity of all, we oppose the capitalist system that does not acknowledge the innate value of life. That was Mark, and that, I think, stands true to the way he lived, being a revolutionary and a believer in democracy and freedom of all, and wanting to believe in the restoring of humanity of everyone, especially those who are exploited and oppressed. But Mark comes from a long line of revolutionaries. And so I'm going to ask Gillian to please come and say a few words about Mark, his family, and his activism.
Okay, is that okay? Can everybody hear me? So I'd like to start by thanking Celeste from the bottom of my heart for inviting me to speak as Mark's adopted mother. And I want to thank as well everybody else who has been involved in organizing this event so quickly and I think so beautifully in bringing us together in this way. So for me, speaking here today is an enormous honor and privilege. It's also very difficult and painful because Mark's passing has been such a terrible shock to all of us. And many years ago, a dear friend of mine explained to me an African understanding of death. And what he said is that you grieve for a young person who still has their life in front of them. But you celebrate the passing of an old person who has lived a good life. And it seems to me that what we're doing today is a combination of grieving for Mark, at the same time celebrating his enormous contributions. And among his most incredible contributions are Liam, Luke, and Sasha, whom Mark and Celeste have given to us as wonderful gifts to the future. And today I want to try to speak to them about the incredible lineage that they are a part of. And for those of you who don't know me, let me just explain briefly how I came to be Mark's adopted mother. Sheila Weinberg's Mark's mother was my closest friend in high school in Johannesburg in the early 1960s. So you get a sense of how old some of us are. And I'll speak much more about her later. But when she passed in November of 2004, Mark and I decided to adopt each other. And both of us had very little, if any, in the way of blood family. And so we decided that we'd make a family. And it was one of the absolutely best things I ever did. So what I want to talk about very importantly is how I still vividly remember Sheila telling me in 2004, shortly before she died, with just huge joy and excitement about this wonderful woman that Mark had met. And at Mark and Celeste's wedding in September of 2005, I can still literally see Sheila's smiling face when she talked about Celeste. And being part of the Fortuyn Weinberg family and becoming a gogo for Liam and Luke and Sasha has been just an enormous joy in my life. I'm sorry. Okay, thanks. Did it go off?
Testing. Hello? I think it's gone off for the moment.
Oh dear.
Yeah, press it on.
Is there a spare mic?
Hmm?
Is there a spare mic?
No, it's on there.
I think we're just going to wait for the mic to be fixed.
I could try to talk really loudly.
Oh, wow. You're doing very well.
Shall I do that? Why don't I try to talk loudly? And if anybody has a problem, stick your hand up and we'll wait for the mic. How's that? Does that work? Okay. So what I wanted to say when the mic so rudely jumped off its ledge was that I really do, and for a long time, have thought about Sheila as an ancestor. And I often talk with her about the wonderful family that Mark and Celeste have created, as well as a lot of other things. When I have things on my mind, I talk to Sheila. But I think that's what ancestors really are about. So I want to turn now to talk about how Liam, Luke, and Sasha form part of a family lineage in South Africa that goes back to their great-grandparents, Ellie and Violet, who came to South Africa in the 1930s. And Ellie, Violet, and Sheila played a hugely important role in the struggle to overthrow apartheid. Is that loud enough? Okay. Yeah, actually, it's good to get that. That they played this enormous role, not only in the overthrow of apartheid, but also in the broader fight for racial and economic justice in South Africa. And before I left the States, Brian Ashley and I had a chat. And Brian said that he was saying to people, in order to understand Mark, you have to understand Sheila. And I totally agree. And I've been struck in the outpouring of commentary about Mark and his incredible way of being in the world, that how deeply Mark's way of being resonates or resonated with Sheila's. And I want to suggest, in addition, how both Sheila and Mark combined activism with parenting in incredibly effective ways. And this is a very feminist way of refusing to separate the personal and the political, that both Mark and Celeste, both Mark and Sheila really embodied. The connection between them becomes clear. Am I speaking loudly enough? Yes. Okay. The connection becomes clear in the wonderful and powerful tribute that Mark wrote for Sheila's funeral, called Hambagahle and Konto, which begins, "Go well, warrior, brave warrior woman, a warrior of the spirit, warrior with an open heart, you laid back, easy warrior, a warrior of the people of South Africa." And in talking more about Sheila and Mark, I'm going to take you back and forth between two key places in Johannesburg. One is the Weinberg family home at 11 Plantation Road, where both Sheila and Mark grew up, and where both Mark and Liam were born. And the second place I want to take you to is the Weinberg family park that was set up as a tribute to the family in 2014 in Savoy in Johannesburg. And for those of you Cape Townians who haven't done this route of following the Weinberg family, I really strongly recommend that if you want to understand Mark, it's really useful to make this trip. And in fact, the last time we were all together, we did this trip from Plantation Road to the Weinberg family park. Now, firstly, I wanted just a very brief description. There's a blue plaque on the wall of the home, which the city of Johannesburg uses to designate heritage sites. And what the plaque at 11 Plantation Road reads, I want to read you what's on the plaque. This is the house of a family of political activists who together made a significant contribution to a non-racial South Africa. Ellie Weinberg, his wife Violet, and daughter Sheila all endured harassment, banning, and house arrest. Rocks were thrown through the front windows, the broken windows were not replaced, and gatherings moved to the kitchen. In 1965, all three were imprisoned, Violet and Ellie for Communist Party activities, Sheila for painting ANC slogans. And I'll come back to this plaque in a minute, but I just want to say in the Weinberg family park, there's actually an incredible installation by the artist Hanelis Kutsia, which makes Ellie Weinberg's role as the key photographer of the liberation movement very central, but also pays tribute to Violet, to Sheila, and to Sheila's elder brother, Mark, who passed away in 1966. Now, in fact, of course, the blue plaque and the installation can only touch the surface of deep, complicated lives. But I can also only highlight a few key issues. So first, Ellie and Violet were not just arrested in 1965, although they were, but from the early 1950s, they experienced long periods of banning and imprisonment. And there were times when Sheila was very young, when she was looked after by Helen Joseph, who was a major political figure to whom Sheila was very close, and in many ways like a mother to her. Sheila was arrested not in 1965, but in 1964. We did matric in 1963. They had the decency to wait until she finished matric. And at that time, she was the youngest person ever detained under the 90-Day Act, which allowed for arrest without trial. And she served somewhere, I think, around 70, close to 90 days of her term. In the early 1970s, Sheila decided she really wanted to have a child on her own. And she gave birth to Mark in January of 1974. Yeah? In 1976, Sheila's parents left for Tanzania. And also in 1966, Sheila was served with a banning order that restricted her to Johannesburg, and she was under house arrest, confined to her home at night, on weekends, and during holidays. And this persisted right through until for a very long time. I want to turn now to reflect on how both Sheila and Mark had actually incredibly challenging and intense childhoods that forged their shared courage, determination, integrity, and commitments. And I realized as I was trying to work through this, the incredible similarities between Sheila and Mark. They were very, on the one hand, they both had very early and direct exposure to the absolute brutality of the apartheid state. But at the same time, they were very close to and they were very directly involved in what it meant to fight against oppression and exploitation. And there were several ways in which, there were many ways in which they were involved in this. But first of all was just the everyday lived experience of never-ending struggle against injustice. Second was close familiarity with probably virtually all the major figures in the liberation struggle. And thirdly, and I was really amazed when I came to realize this, that both of them participated in key historical events at exactly the same age. When Sheila was 9, when she was present at the Congress of the People in Kliptown in 1955, when the Freedom Charter was launched. Mark was also 9 when he participated with Sheila in the launch of the United Democratic Front in Mitchell's Plain in 1983. And Celeste told me that this was for him a hugely important formative memory. Mark's engagement with struggle from a very, very early age helped to shape both his deep love for Celeste, with her own enduring commitment for social change, and also their philosophy and practices of parenting, which I think are inseparable with their political commitments. And this, I caught a glimpse of this in 2014 at the launch of the Weinberg family farm. And Luke and Sasha were still very little, so Mark came with Liam, who was then 8. And after Mark had spoken, Liam said he wanted to speak. And Mark had to lift him up to get him to the microphone. And Liam just gave this incredible speech that was powerful, deeply analytical, very moving, and the audience was just gobsmacked. It just didn't seem possible that so young a person could deliver this kind of speech. I mean, we were all just in awe and amazed. And I've spoken to people who were there for whom this was an absolutely central memory of the Weinberg family park. And I also think what's very important to realize is that this speech was not prompted by Mark or Celeste. On the contrary, it came straight from Liam. And this also speaks to what I think is so important about the politics of their parenting. Because both Mark and Celeste were and are completely committed to each of the kids being themselves. And so this is not a matter of, if you're a Weinberg, you've got to go out there and be a political activist. But you have to be true to yourself. And I think that's the key point of all of this. And so what I want to do is end by quoting from the last part of Mark's tribute to Sheila. And Liam has come up with a wonderful tribute to Mark that takes this another step forward. But I'm going to read what Mark said about Sheila at the end of his speech. He said, "I salute a loving activist, courageous, committed discipline. I salute your spirit. Thank you for all you have given and all you have shown me. For Sheila's local activism and commitment, let there not be another 10 years of demobilization of our people." And remember, this is 2004, in the period following the 10 years of the election marking 10 years of democracy. And this is why the 10 years is important here. Let there not be another 10 years of the demobilization of our people. Let us recommit to deepening democracy and opening debate within our movements. For Sheila, not another 10 years of job losses, people's lives ruined by privatization, capital investment, and the single-minded pursuit of profit. For Sheila's humility, not another 10 years of the opulence and self-enrichment that has emerged in her movement. For Sheila's humanity, not another 10 years of landlessness, peasants forced into cities and reserves, alienated from their land and culture. I say, a luta continua, let the struggle continue. I say namaste, I love, I honor, and I respect you. Hambagash lemam, I pick up the spear. And I just want to say quickly in closing from a very personal position, to let Celeste, Luke, Liam, Sasha know how deeply I love them and how being part of their family has been and remains so important to me. And I love you all, and I'm so proud of you. And thank you.
Yeah, when I met Mark for the first time, I think I was around 17 or 18, and I didn't really know much about this chap, but he came across as this lovable guy that almost anyone could connect with. And then fortunately for me, in 2015, I got to meet him again when I started working at AIDC, where Mark also worked and also served as the director at some point. And I think he saw AIDC as a political home for him. And I think from that time, when I started to know more about Mark, I said to my mother, oh no, I'm going to be chilling with the Mark Weinberg, you know. This guy who has this rich family tradition, who started the Right to Know campaign, was part of many impactful moments of activism. But for him, he was just this normal comrade who wanted to go out for Friday drinks after work. And what that made me understand about Mark is that in as much as he loved politics and his family, he also wanted to make politics fun. He wanted to push the boundaries of what it means to be a socialist and for socialism to be incorporated in all parts of our life. And he would refer to himself as a freedom fighter. And I found it, once again, in the way Alan was saying at the church, extremely humble, the level of humility that he carried with himself with, and sometimes his own angst about his contributions was mind-boggling. And I think we can all say many incredible achievements that Mark's made. But I think one of the biggest ones for me was the Siyatanda project, which means we love. And it was Mark's ambition to ensure that when we talk about socialism, when we talk about freedom, that we do it with a high level of humanity and with restoring the humanity of people. And for me, that was extremely important and something that I'll continue to take with me for a long time. Another comrade who's been asked to say something is Mazibuko, who apparently tried to recruit Mark to the SACP. Let's hear if he was successful or not.
Thanks, Dominic. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a bad public speaker, so I will read. The sudden and painful departure of Mark Thabo Weinberg makes one feel mortality deeply. It was only at the December meeting of the Balaza for Socialism that the two of us were comparing notes of our shared sickness of diabetes. We were also thrilled at sharing tidbits about our families. Celeste at Oxfam, where the children will go to study this year, where the family will visit Oxford via Kabul and Kobo again. And now, all far too sudden, we are all struggling to familiarize ourselves with the still too painful fact of having to talk about Mark in the past. Of the death of the pioneer Christian, Sikana Gagaba, the Reverend John Boko penned these few lines. All the village wailed and fasted on the day Sikana left us. He was buried, covered over, left there, then he journeyed homeward. White they lie beneath the earth, the bones of Kaba's offspring. Grass arose upon his grave, a great champion of the nation. Yet he lives and keeps on speaking in a voice rich with experience, sounding sonorously, decently, and lovingly. Narrating to us the metaphor of unity as we see a born from scrapings left on the belt of a flesh is not as list. Indeed, Mark has been cut down in the prime of his life with the frightening mystery of a flesh of lightning, such as we see in the summer high fresh storms. This cuts so deep. While we mourn his passing, we cannot journey homewards as his wife remains lie underneath the soil, without taking his bright flame forward into the future. It is also our right and privilege to celebrate the fact that we were blessed with so rare of a fellow human being who was simultaneously a genuine friend, a trustworthy colleague, a reliable kindness, an activist and a leader, an internationalist, a human titan who freely and unquestioningly surrendered his life to the cause of what humanity, a principled revolutionary, a true communist. Indeed, his voice is and will remain as rich with experience, sounding sonorously, decently, and lovingly in what is now our human model of his impact on all of us. We need the unity of purpose and clarity of vision, and the continuously framed and formed into a tight united ball of scrapings with every effort of his life. Of remarkably similar lives, the national poet laureate of Davos, Samuel Mkai, once bemoaned the singing of the lady as such. He said, "We did not send you with bags. We didn't seduce you with long strips of fire-roasted meat. No, not because of personal glory as shiny and high as the stars. Indeed, Mark did not stand for justice because there was a promise of personal wealth." Mkai continues, On the day you left home, we talked with you. On the day you left your families, we pointed our fingers at you. On that day, we shook hands, our eyes welled up. On the day your mother cried, your father sobbed. On the day you turned your backs to the mountains of your birth, on the day you left the rivers of your country behind, we said to you, going there as proud, dark-skinned people, we said, you are sacrificed from here. Could we have sacrificed anything more precious? Was it not keeping the best calves of the flock? Was it not the most beloved of the nation? Without ever boasting or showboating about it, Mark stood on and deepened a principled and proud family legacy of genuine patriots and revolutionaries who sacrificed, spared no effort in making their contributions to free our country. He drew inspirations from the open face that define this beautiful but blighted country. The Xhosa have a saying, what has happened is not something that does not occur. I've always struggled to translate this. It's short 2 words. And my best attempt to translate it, I will repeat. What has happened is not something that does not occur. Whatever this saying seeks to mean, Celeste, Liam, Sasha, and Luke, I hope you draw strength from the bravery and humanity you have shown since that tragic Wednesday is remarkable. It also goes with faith, with grief and much questioning. Take it as it comes. Situate yourselves and hold Mark deeply and his loving voice, rich with experience, sounding sonorously, decently, and lovingly in your embrace. Celeste, Liam, Sasha, Luke, Jill, comrades and friends, such was the person that Mark was. His love, his compassion, his warmth, his self-effacing vigor, his commitment, his thoroughness. Now, beyond the prepared text, I want to say a few things, perhaps from the heart. It must have been between 1996 and 1997 that the two of us encountered each other. I was working for the National Coalition for Gay and Lesbian Equality. He was working at the SA-NGO Coalition. We were an affiliate of the SA-NGO Coalition. It was 3 of them, Mark, Dipuo Matati, and Mutuse Shupinyani, who ran a very dynamic and powerful Sangoko media unit. There were other people at Sangoko, and Sangoko was indeed this thrive of exciting political activity. In addition to me being in the National Coalition for Gay and Lesbian Equality, I was also the branch secretary of the Johannesburg Central Branch of the South African Communist Party. And I thought this good one cannot not come to the Communist Party. Let me try and recruit him. So already in Sangoko, he was eccentric, effervescent, and just being himself. So he resisted. By the way, I did not know what Weinberg he was. I just know Mark Weinberg. I did not know the political history of the family. So he eventually decided that he will join. But throughout those 2 years, short 2 years that he was an active member of the branch, he was always raising questions that we were not ready to deal with, even as that Johannesburg Central Branch. Contrarian, basic, and always asking about what actually are we doing concretely. That for me was actually quite informative, far into the future. In my life, I had not visited Abington ever, but he convinced us in the Amanda Collective that Amanda and AITC must actually join the National Community Media Forum to host a massive media festival in Abington. As to why he chose Abington, and it drove us, all of us, to go there in a hot December, he still has to account for that. But there he was, the whole week of that festival, energetic, as people were sweating and couldn't cope with the heat, because most of the people did not come from this hot Abington. They came from elsewhere in the country. but there his vision of what a transformed community media sector could look like. Personally, it is Mark who challenged me to actually go beyond being an activist and think about one's well-being. There's a program, I don't know if it's still run, it was called More to Life, a weekend-long program, where actually you get to understand your own emotions, your own traumas. And one of the key things that weekend taught me was having to deal with resilience. Without Mark, I would not have opened the pathway to have to realize the need to deal with one's life and the knocks one takes on life. As Dominic has already said, actually what Mark did was to take that More to Life program to the Siatanda program, where he pulled together a whole range of resources, which he was hoping ultimately would become quite a serious program for well-being of activists. I conclude, comrades, by drawing inspiration from his courage, from his integrity and vision. His absence will be deeply felt. It is upon us, as Liam said earlier in the chapter, to pick up his spear, that of a brave, principled warrior for peace, love, justice, and society. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacha. Comrades, I'm sure people are having lots of food for thought and nourished in terms of the soul, but maybe be getting a little bit hungry for actual food. So the first thing is we're going to propose that we eat, and whilst we start eating, we continue with the program in the next few minutes, as there are still some tributes to be done. And for the next tribute, please stand in front of this microphone for the live stream. And yeah, I'm being told by Omaya you only have 5 minutes. So I don't know how the lunch is being served. Does everyone have to order, Celeste? People will just be bringing lunch. Okay. All right, in the next 5 minutes. So maybe while we wait for lunch to be served, I hope Tommy is available to render us a song, please. We have a few more tributes in celebration of Mark.
Short and sweet.
Thanks, Omar. Omar says it must be short and sweet.
Yes, the mic is.
The first tribute after the lunch is coming from Erna, Janine, and Tombi, who are Mark's colleagues at the Yetu Collective.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. We had really the honor and privilege to work with Mark on the Yetu project. We considered him our comrade, brother, friend, colleague. And Mark was certainly a person that marched to the beat of his own drum, and that's how it was in the office. I don't think we could have found a more easygoing, peaceful, stressless, non-judgmental place to be. I think we're still all in a little shock because it was just last week, Monday, when we were in the office together, and we all said that somehow at the beginning of the year, Mark, I don't know where he got it from, but he had all this energy and new ideas and hope, which is very precious in this time. So we don't really feel at this point that, you know, we do an injustice to try and say everything that Mark meant. But we just want to read you shortly something from the Yetu Collective, one of our comrades said. Yetu is Mark's brainchild, and how we can still go on keeping Mark in the present. He cared deeply about the inherited injustices of the past, and Yetu created a fighting unit in the struggle against the ongoing theft of common resources, a rebuilt internet, freely accessed and empowering to its users. Mark dedicated his mind and energy to the intelligence created by cooperation. And at a time when this network intelligence is blockaded by artificial intelligence, let's remember Mark by picking up the tools he's dropped and wield them like weapons. Sounds a lot like Mark. We'll really miss Mark, as was said this morning, we'll try and live out his principles. We just want to agree with what everyone said here today. Mark's drive was social justice, but the center of his world was Celeste and Liam and Sasha and Luke, and not a day went by in the office when you didn't see some indication of that. And one can only hope to experience such love. Thank you.
Omar's asking if there's another speech. Yes, there is. Omar, there are not many left. We have 3 more, including the thanks. Okay. So next, I'm asking Leseko to please come.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name is Malaika Lesejo, and Uncle Mark was my uncle. You will have heard quite a lot of, sorry, I'm shaking. Okay. A lot of people have spoken here about Uncle Mark's activity, and I think we all know just how deeply committed he was to social justice, how deeply passionate he was about that work. But I want to talk to you about who he was as an uncle to me and to my younger brother, Lumumba. He's not here, he's at school in Johannesburg. Just over 20 years ago, my mother worked with Uncle Mark at Sangoko. And I was a child at the time. And very often I would come back home. I would come back to her office at Smith Street in Braamfontein. That's where the offices, Sangoko offices were. And every afternoon I looked forward to going there because I knew that Uncle Mark would be there, waiting for me with some pamphlet of something, some social justice struggle taking place somewhere. I was too young to understand a lot of these things at the time. But more than that, I always looked forward to the afternoons when he would take me to a spot called Fatima. Those from the Sangoko times would remember at Fatima's place. They were selling kotas there, bunny chows, and quite some nice food there. He would take me there all the time. And it was truly some of the most happiest moments of my childhood. But perhaps an even more profound moment of my childhood that involves Uncle Mark. We're just talking about it with Aunt Celeste just now. About 19 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't know, many years ago, probably 20 years ago, I was staying in Soweto with my family, and those were quite very difficult times. And I remember Aunt Celeste and Uncle Mark had just gotten married, and they were in, I think, the UK for their honeymoon. And they left my mother to house sit at the house in Norwood. And so we stayed there for about 2-3 weeks that we were there. And that particular period is very profound in the story of my life because I cannot think of a time in my childhood where I was that safe and that happy. Because coming from the kind of household that I was coming from, to have had a safe space to be in Uncle Mark and Aunt Celeste's house was a very defining moment for me. But for my sister as well. She's not here, she's also in Joburg. And so a few days ago, I've relocated to Germany and I logged onto Facebook. And as soon as I logged onto Facebook, I see these rest in peace Mark Weinberg posts everywhere. And I was in shock. I couldn't believe it, right? Because my mother, who reported to Uncle Mark at Sangoko, she died 7.5 years ago. And in the last 7.5 years, I've had Uncle Mark and Aunt Celeste being a pillar of mine and my younger brother. It was quite a very difficult period losing my mom because there was no one else. You know, she had been our mother, she had been a single parent, but knowing at all times that we could always call on Uncle Mark, call on Aunt Celeste, made a very difficult period quite bearable. And so when I saw these posts on Facebook, sitting in Germany in the cold, I immediately called Aunt Celeste and I said, I texted her, you know, she was not taking calls, and I said, I'm on my way, I'm coming back. Because I cannot imagine that we would send off Uncle Mark and I would not be there, especially since my mother can't be there. But one thing, Aunt Celeste, and I'm going to share this, it may probably be uncomfortable because it was a crime at that time that Uncle Mark did for my mother. So like I said, my mother passed away 7.5 years ago. She died of cancer. And when my mom died, I was at school, I was at Rhodes University at the time. No one, not even I, knew just how sick she was, right? So she had been diagnosed with cancer and she died about 6 weeks after her diagnosis was given. But during that 6 weeks, which normally one would think if someone has got metastasized cancer, they would be in pain, it would be a difficult time. My mother actually wasn't in pain. She died quite happy, she died, you know, quite suddenly also. She was never sick, she was never anything, she died quite happy. And part of the reason that happened is because when my mother got her diagnosis, the first person that she called was Aunt Celeste and Uncle Mark. And at the time, unfortunately, the South African government had not been alert to the important role that cannabis could play in the struggle and the fight against cancer, and the kind of peace and life and dignity that it could give those who were fighting this very terrible disease. So my mom called Uncle Mark and Aunt Celeste, and Aunt Celeste had a student, I forget her name, but she was a student of Aunt Celeste, and somehow, despite the fact that at the time it was still illegal in South Africa to use marijuana even for medicinal purposes, they found a way to get it to Johannesburg. It was not available in South Africa. They worked very hard and they found it, they got it into a bus and they brought it to Gauteng. And for the last 6 weeks of my mother's life, Aunt Celeste and Uncle Mark were making sure that she gets access to this cannabis oil that not only eased the pain, but that also ensured that my mother died in dignity and that my family did not have to endure the horror of seeing her sick and debilitated. And so when I remember Uncle Mark, for me, beyond him as an activist and the work that he did in the social justice space, I remember above all a man who gave me the happiest times in my childhood. I remember a man who allowed my mother to die in dignity. And I remember Aunt Celeste as someone who in the last 7.5 years has never let me and my brother go a single day without being reminded that we are cared for and that we are loved. And if there is no greater legacy that Uncle Mark leaves behind to me, to my family, and to my younger brother, it is that he loved us, and we knew it. And that he loved my mother, and she knew it. And I can only hope, Aunt Celeste, that you too know that you are deeply loved, that you are deeply valued, and that everything that you have done for us, everything that Uncle Mark has done, will never go unappreciated. And it will always, for the rest of my life, define who I am and define who my younger brother is. And I thank you all for remembering this man who was, above all else, a truly, truly great human being. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Malaika. There is a voice note that we want to play. So if anyone has a phone that can take an aux cable, please speak to Soraya. Soraya, just put up your hand. Then I'm going to call on Murray Hunter, who used to work very closely with Mark in forming the Right to Know.
Which one's the actual mic? Okay. I've got something written down, but I'm not going to read it. I know that even though Mark believed in freedom of information, I know that brevity is going to be a beauty here. But I want to say that Mark was an incredibly important friend and comrade and mentor to many of us who came to the Right to Know. Many people whose activism was formed in the Right to Know for the first time. And in reflecting on the gifts that he gave, I think the movement and the people in it, I came up with 3 enduring lessons that Mark brought to those spaces that I want to carry forward, and I invite others to carry forward as well. And the first is his deep commitment to the idea that there's power in working together. And that's almost a trite thing to say, but once you put people together and you ask us to work in community across political differences, even within the left, there's like 20,000 sects, right? But actually to build a broad coalition around common purpose. He truly believed that not only as a tactic, because it's more powerful to have people working in union, but actually as a moral, I think as a moral assumption that is us at our best. And it was very difficult. It was incredibly chaotic to go into Right to Know spaces if anyone did it. The organizational culture was insane if you were not initiated. Anyone could come into those meetings. There was no membership. You could come in and you could be part of that, part of debates. The budget was open, the programs were open. You could kind of shape these things together. And it was infuriating. And I remember at one point having this, I was railing to Mark about some comrade who was the sort of person who could turn any discussion into an argument that would be detailed in a manifesto-length email. And I actually don't remember who that person was because it could have been a couple of us. But I said, oh, but he's such an arsehole. And Mark said, oh, yes, but he's our arsehole. And that was truly, he actually really only had, in my estimation, two criteria for membership to essentially to call yourself a comrade of his. Was a commitment to the principles of anti-chauvinism. There's no sexism, no racism. He could not tolerate that. And then the second was a commitment to this incredibly painful democratic process. That actual true democratic change could only come through a democratic process. And so that is one of the things I carry with me. And there was this wonderful moment at the height of this organization where there was a room full of 60, 80, 90 activists who sat for 2 days shaping our programs and critiquing them, as participants. And someone who was an observer said, I've been sitting here 2 days, I actually don't know who's in charge. And it sounded like a negative thing, but I think Mark took incredible pride in that, the idea that you couldn't see who was pulling the strings, there was no one dictating or shaping the thing, it was done collectively. Now, it came with some, that's the spin. It was also very painful and often very inefficient. But the second lesson that he brought was this idea that politics, what was the word you used? This politics needs to be fun. And he worked with joy and with love. And truly, the injustices of the world, the only reasonable response is anger and despair. But somehow, and he felt those things, but somehow also was driven by love for his family, for the people he was trying to make a better world for, but actually for anyone in the room, anyone working alongside him in commonality. And in truth, his heart was at the barricades. He wanted to be on the ground, but he knew that his role was in the spreadsheets and the donor reports. And running an organization and being involved in activism is actually, those are really crap things that you spend a lot of time losing. But he somehow found a way to find joy in each of these things. And I have this image that anyone who's been in the office with Mark would know, of this man crumpled over a laptop until his beard was almost touching the keyboard, staring at a spreadsheet, and somehow he'd get the formula right, he'd go, ah! And that would be his victory for the day. Because I think he thought I think he genuinely said, these are crap tasks, but my role in the struggle is making these tasks get done. And so he carried that joy with him everywhere. It was actually, it's something that I didn't realize how precious it was. And then the third lesson that he taught in his doing was the fact that all of this is temporary. And I remember early on in Right to Know him mentioning that, well, when this thing collapses, what will we do next? And I was completely appalled at that. I didn't realize that organizations die, and that actually that's a healthy thing for organizations to do. And Mark seemed to have realized, possibly from some pretty hard experience, that organizations come and go, just like people, that causes flower and fade, and that political moments come and go. And I think it's that realization that everything is temporary that helped make it possible to realize that a better world could be ahead of us, but also made him savor every victory, however small, and also helped him to weather every defeat, no matter how stinging. And I do think, unfortunately, the Right to Know, as far as I know, is largely faded. And I think its decline and its collapse was quite heartbreaking for him. But many people walked out of that thinking that the lesson was that working democratically, working across commonality was actually a mistake. It's too inefficient. You need the right, small group of people, the right ideas, they'll get it done. And I don't think he ever let go of the promise of working together with love. And I think that the lesson, the invitation for me and for anyone else who wants it is to take those lessons into our life. And I don't particularly relish it because it's a lot of hard work, but I think that Mark saw in each of us the promise of unity. He saw the capacity for that joy, and I think he saw the promise of a better world in each of us. Thank you.
Yeah. For Mark, democracy was socialism and socialism was democracy. You cannot separate the two. And a radical democracy. And I think it's also true that Mark loved radically and deeply almost everyone he's encountered, and a deep love for humanity. And I think, when I think of Mark, my friend, in all the struggles, this sometimes deep personal angst, he tried to see the silver lining. He tried to see what possibly can change the situation, and often strove to think about what can shift the dynamics even in a very difficult time. And I think we're going to miss him immensely in our lives for the love that he's shown to us, his consideration, his humility, and just his ability to make things feel okay even when they are not. And for me, it's going to be a big loss. Being here today would normally be a time when I would find Mark for us to sit and talk together in and amongst and the crowd, and being here without him makes me feel quite lost. And so I also want to say thanks to everyone who's loved Mark and has been there for him all this time, because I think he wouldn't be able to give the amount of love that he's given with an empty cup. And so that means he must have got immense joy and love from his family, his comrades, and his friends. And I want to thank Celeste, Luke, Liam, Sasha, for always making a home for me and making me feel like family. I love you guys. Lindsay, you're supposed to give some thanks to everyone.
Use the mic. Is it this? Okay.
Should I just hold it?
Sorry, I can there's someone that's supposed to sing.
Hi everyone.
I'm Celeste's brother, if you guys don't know. Just before I start, I don't think Mark would have wanted you guys to be sad. When I saw Mark today, yeah, I think we always like you would say surprise, and we were very excited. And I almost felt Mark was playing a joke on us today, and he's just gonna hop out and say surprise. So don't be sad.
Okay, so on behalf of Celeste and the family, we want to extend a heartfelt thank you to each of you for being here today to honor and celebrate the life of Mark. Your presence is a true reflection of the impact he had on so many lives, and we are deeply moved by the outpouring of love and support we have received during this difficult time. We are grateful to our family, friends, and community members who have come together to stand with us, offer kind words, and provide comfort. Your messages of sympathy, acts of kindness, and unwavering support have meant the world to us. Just to add, Mark was a beloved husband. He was a father, family member, and also good friend to us all. And today we gather not only to mourn his passing, but to cherish the joy, kindness, and strength he brought to our lives. He was a devoted father to Liam and the twins, Sasha and Luke, and he took immense pride in his family, shaping their lives with love, wisdom, and unwavering support. His memory will live forever, and through the love he shared and the stories we hold dear. I just want to share 3 stories about Mark. I've known Mark, I think, for 22 years. That's half my life. And I just want to mention that you mustn't forget that Mark and Celeste had a love story. So, the first time I met Mark, I think Celeste was still working at JetNet. I think she just came to Cape Town, started the whole NGO thing. She worked at the Court in Worcester, so she worked at JetNet. with Charmaine and Adima and them. And she told me that she's going to Joburg for training or a workshop or something like that. And she told me that somehow she was in contact with Mark and they haven't seen each other for years. And I'll ask Celeste to one day tell how they met and stuff like that. So Celeste was a bit nervous because he wanted to see her. And she came to me and asked, but what do I think about it? And I told her, Mark wanted to see her the Friday and she was leaving the Sunday. So I told Celeste, rather do it the Sunday because you haven't seen him in years, you've changed, he's changed, all that stuff. So rather do it the Sunday. If it's not so nice, you leave the Sunday and everything is over with it. And that's that. Okay, so that happened now. Celeste met him again the Sunday. And I don't know when she came back. Was it Sunday evening or the Monday? But I was staying with her at the time. And I noticed there was a change in my sister. She was very happy and stuff. And I kid you not, it wasn't even a week. Mark drove all the way from Joburg. That time there was a car, a Corsa Light, 1300. So Mark left his job. He drove to Cape Town. And it was like, so in the afternoon was very hot. It was like 3 o'clock. So you stop there and goes over there by the flat and stuff like that. So now I met Mark now for the first time now. And later on, I look at the car and I see in the car there's a fan on the dashboard and there was a wireless radio. And then I asked Mark, like, Mark, why the fan? Doesn't the car have an aircon? And why the wireless radio? Doesn't the car come with a radio? And Mark said when he left his work, he didn't have a lot of money because he still had to throw in the fuel to get there. And he said he had something like, I think he said like 1,000 rand left. And he said he could do one of two things. Or that's what he said. He said he could have put in a radio, fixed the radio, and then drive up, or he could fix the aircon. So he did a very practical thing. He bought a fan and plugged it by the lighter and a wireless radio. So we had both in the day. So that was the type of person Mark was. He was a very practical person, like, and he didn't complain. And then the second thing I remember about Mark as well was after his mother died, Sheila died. So a lot of people kind of touched on it, but Mark's grandparents, they immigrated from Russia, I think. And that was, okay, but still, they immigrated, so they had no family here in South Africa. And Sheila was born, and Mark was Sheila's only son, kind of, yes. And what happened was when Sheila died, Mark didn't have any family besides Jill now. So it wasn't long after Sheila passed that Mark, I was studying at the time and we were staying in observatory and Mark told me, but yeah, he wants to ask Celeste now to get married now. So I said, I'm fine with it, I don't have problem. So my room was in the front of the house. And Celeste, I can't recall where Celeste was working at the time. And Celeste arrived after work. She came to the door. She said, hi Buta, and all that stuff. And she didn't know what was waiting for her. So when she went like into the room, Mark, like he was under a bit of pressure. So I think he still took the shaving foam or something like that. And he put it on the wall and he just wrote, marry me. So I didn't know about the shaving foam. I was sitting there in my room just thinking what's gonna happen now. When Celeste walked in, I just heard her starting to cry from joy now. So that's when Mark actually asked her to be his wife now. They had a lovely wedding I think most of us that were there could say what a nice day it was and stuff like that. And the last story I want to just tell everyone about Mark. And if everyone saw the pamphlet today, the picture of Mark is the Mark I met. He carried a bit of weight, stuff like that. But if you guys knew Mark was a different person. He lost a lot of weight. Mark was a smoker. He stopped smoking. Like, he gave up a lot of stuff. And all of us don't realize, but Mark, I thought about, was very sick. Mark was very sick. He had to do a lot of stuff to extend his life and stuff like that. And we must keep that in mind as well. But what I want to touch on about Mark being sick was, I think it was around about 2 years back. And Mark was the person who took the kids to school now. I think first it was Sasha and Luke, because their school wasn't so far. And then after that, he would take Liam to Westerford and all that stuff. So Celeste said, I think it was a Friday morning, she said she was in the house. And Mark came to her and he asked her, he asked, Celeste, can't you take Liam to school? And Celeste looked at him and Celeste thought to herself, but you then just took the twins. Why can't you take Liam now, like you were hitting them? And then he said, I can't see. So now I can imagine now how his eyesight went backwards and stuff like that. But he never opened up. So that's when Celeste then started to be so focused on his diabetes and the managing of it. So that was the person Mark was. He never complained. I can't recall him ever complaining, and a very practical person. So those are just the 3 stories that I have of Mark that I thought I would share with you guys today. Okay, so I just want to give special gratitude to the following people, and forgive me if I miss people. Forgive me. Firstly, it is our immediate family. For their support and understanding have been the foundation that has held us together during this difficult time. I want to thank Janet, Joseph, and Ellen, who are like family to us, and for what they've done for Celeste and Mark over the years. Also, Celeste's neighbors, it was very frantic last week on Tuesday, and they assisted us. Sister Celeste and Mark, and what they did, Celeste just said, I must thank them for what they did on Tuesday. Then Jill, traveling all the way from the US. Jill told me it's California, New York, and then I just knew there was a far journey that she had to do. So thank you for that. And also for Sarifa. Sarifa came all the way from Norway. And Sarifa said she's struggling with the weather in South Africa because it's winter there by then. So thank you for that, and the traveling mercies. And then also for Celeste right now, Elissa Beth Skutter, but we all know her as Lisbeth. So Lisbeth, Soraya, all the close friends and all the JetNet staff that she worked over time, and she appreciated what you guys did for her the last week and over the years, but especially in the last week. And then also Celeste said I must thank the network of sisters and colleagues that she has as well for supporting on this difficult time. And then Celeste has very close friends. That's Fazla now, Lira, Violetta, Amber, Shireen, Heidi, and Marianne. Yes, Celeste said very thank you. And then, lastly, I want to thank the undertakers for what they did today for Mark and the family as well, for the service that they gave, treating us with dignity and also Mark's memory with dignity today. And then also everyone across the country who shared their sympathy, comrades and friends who are deeply grateful. We are deeply grateful to all who reach out with kind thoughts and words from afar. So, in closing, as we say our final goodbyes, let us take comfort in the memories and lessons that Mark left us. His kindness, resilience, and unwavering support for those around him will always be remembered. Though his presence will be deeply missed, his spirit lives on in the love he shared and the impact he made on each of us. Let us continue to honor his memory by embodying the same warmth and generosity he showed throughout his life. Thank you once again for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. We're about to conclude the celebration of Mark. Before we do, we will finish with a song from Tami. And as Tami makes her way up, a funny story of Mark is, he told me quite a few. Some of them I don't think it's appropriate to speak about now. But the one, so I grew up from quite a conservative family. And he tells me the story, I'm not sure when it was, Oma. But apparently Celeste was with Mark in Norwood. And in the next morning after they'd woken up and so on, Sheila woke them up with bed and breakfast. And for me, this was a very strange thing. And I think it also speaks to the beating of their own drums. So, Tami?
Malaika, nakupenda malaika, malaika, nakupenda malaika, ndingekuwa maliwe, ndingekuwa tata, nasendwana mali sinawe. Nashendwana malisina we, never over malaika. Pesa zosumbuwa roho yangu. Pesa zosumbuwa roho yangu. Never over maliwe. Sumbuwa roho yangu. Pesa zosumbuwa roho yangu. Nimenifanyeje kigana wenzio, nasendwana mali sina we, nekuwa malaika. Nashendwana mali sina we, nekuwa malaika.
or do I just speak? I don't mind. Hello everyone. I didn't actually plan on speaking, but here I am, it seems. I just wanted to say on behalf of my mother, my sister, my brother, my uncle, and everybody here, thank you so much for being here for us. And thank you so much to everyone who organized this for us, you know. I mean, like, I sit here now, and I reflect on everything that's happened, and, you know, and I wonder what dignity is. But I guess at the end of the day, dignity is not being alone, you know. And I think I speak on behalf of all of us here when I say we wake up in the morning and we know we aren't. Even if sometimes it's a bit of a schlep, you know. I know that you guys are with me, and I wouldn't actually have wanted anyone else to be here with us. So thank you so much for everyone for coming and for being here with us. It really means the world.
Thanks everyone. That concludes our celebration of our comrade and friend, our husband and father, Mark Weinberg.